Welcome, everybody, back to another special episode of the Amateur Experts Podcast, where we are experts on absolutely nothing. Got my two co-hosts with me. My name is Landon Oliver, your host here with co-host Andrew Scott and co-host Jared Holly joining us after missing the last episode. So we're glad to have him back. What's going on, guys?
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens, man. It is good to have you back, though. It's feels a lot better having all three of us here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so now you have obviously two Colts fans against the Rams. Colts play the Rams this week. So it'll be brutal. That's all we're gonna say about that. The Rams varsity team gets to face the middle school Colts roster. So that'll be a good one. But we now have another week 2 edition of money making matchups, and hopefully it goes a little bit better without the injuries than the week 1 did. But as we went over in our review that we did a few days ago, it is up on YouTube and up anywhere podcasts are. We definitely had some hits, so I'm really looking forward again to getting into our smash or pass options for week 2 and getting into some DFS lineups. And we also have a surprise for you as well. So if you're listening to this, if you're on FanDuel, you can join FanDuel. We have a link that we will be posting in the YouTube description, and we will be sending out on social media as well on our Twitter account, where if you want to play against us for FanDuel, it is only a $1 entry. Get a chance to win a little bit of money. It's not a very big, money pot, but depending on how many people join, the more money you can make. So yeah, tell everybody to join up on FanDuel. You will get to play against all three of us and try to beat us, take us down, and win some money for the week.
And if it's anything like it was last week for me, that's easy money for whoever joins. I'm just basically handing somebody $1. So you'd be dumb not to come take my money.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Week 1 was rough.
Exactly. And it's not necessarily on any takes, but a lot of the guys that we had targeted in DFS got injured very early on in the games, and it just pretty much shot the entire week. So yeah, but yeah, we will, that link will be in the description on the YouTube video and on our Twitter account on social media. So just check that out. Now we will get into our week 2 money making matchups. We will start with smash or pass. And we switched up a little bit this week. I'm taking over the tight ends. Andrew's taking over wide receivers. Big Jared's got the running backs, and we are all doing a smash, a pass, and a sleeper option that maybe this guy's riding your bench, but he has a really good matchup. Maybe you're debating between a few other players and this player, and we're here to tell you if you should play him or not. So we're going to go ahead and start, as always, with the running backs. The running backs, the most important position. We always start with running backs on the show. So we're going to go let Big Jared take over this. Jared, give us your running back smash of the week.
So my smash of the week is Chris Carson. He's coming off a very good first week. He did not get in the end zone, unfortunately, in week 1, but he was involved in the passing game some as well. He got some targets, and he definitely is going to be the main vocal point of the running game, of course. Rashard Penny is going to be out for week 2. They are favorited at home with possible rain in the forecast, which could lead to more running to the football. I think Carson is an absolute smash. He's a lock on DFS sites and just in regular fantasy.
And who are they playing, by the way?
They're playing the Tennessee Titans.
That's right.
I had to throw that in there, huh?
That's right.
I like it too.
They looked rough for week 1.
Wouldn't you know it? They sure did.
Hey, I didn't have them in the playoffs.
Yeah, you called it. At least I was nice enough to have them in the playoffs, but I don't know. Seems like whenever you're in the AFC South, that's who wants to lose the least. So
Houston.
Yeah, your first place Houston Texans. So yeah, I like Chris Carson this week as well. I think he does get into the end zone. That Seattle offensive line looked really good. I can see it being very similar to the Indianapolis game, unfortunately, where Seattle can jump out to a big lead, passing the ball, letting Russ do his thing. Then the rest of the time, they kind of grind the clock down with Chris Carson. Also, you have a Rashad Penny injury. Spoiler, alert. Not really much of a shocker there. Sorry, Andrew.
Nobody saw that one coming.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so now Chris Carson is even more of the guy and look, anybody knows if you listen to this show, especially with me and Andrew, if you know us personally and you've talked football, you already know I'm a big Chris Carson guy. All the guy does is produce. That's literally all he does. He's not flashy. He doesn't get the big first round pick. He's not the big name. All he does is run for 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. That's all the guy does. So, yeah, I agree. It's going to be a really good matchup for him this week. And
it's a high Vegas total as well. It all plays out. There's really a lot of good spots in that game in general.
That there are. So anything to add on Chris Carson, Drew?
No, I'm 100% on board. I think he's a smash this week as well.
Yeah. So now we will get into our running back bust of the week.
Go ahead and throw him up there on the screen there. It hurts me to say it because he proved me wrong in week 1. I definitely was not on the DeAndre Swift wagon in week 1, and he very much produced. So did Jamal Adams as well. Jamal Williams. Yeah. Sorry.
Jamal Adams also produced.
Yeah, he did as well.
Against the Colts.
I think a lot of that had to come with some garbage time. Obviously, Detroit made a game out of that late into the game against the 49ers, which a defense I do think is going to take a little bit of a backseat as well, that people were really high on. I think they're still a good defense. I don't think they're an elite defense. He's coming into a game where they were big underdogs for one, and I think Green Bay is going to come out motivated. I think they're going to come out and they're going to stick it to them really quick. The game could get out of hand really quick to the point where I don't think Swift has enough volume in the game in order to produce. I think there's better options.
Yeah, I think it's all about kind of what your expectations for Swift are, because I do think he has a safe floor with his passing game work, especially if they are going to fall behind, as most people, myself included, see happening. I do think he has a safe floor, but his upside, I think, is kind of dependent on if he can get the end zone or not, and that's a tough game to play. Trying to predict touchdowns. So I think he's a safe player this week, but maybe not the upside that he gave you in week 1, which I did not see coming at all. I didn't expect him to have a week like he did in week 1. I thought his usage was going to be much lower. So I do like him as a running back 2 play this week, but if if you went Kelsey and receiver early or something like that, and you're depending on him to be your RB1, might want to temper expectations a little bit.
Yeah. This was hard for me, because I'm the exact opposite as Jared. I think he is a fantastic play this week because of what Andrew mentioned, and kind of even because of what Jared mentioned, because they get down, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. There's not really many receiving options on that team. And now I believe Tyrell Williams is also out for the game as well, which is one less option that they even had to begin with. So yeah, I think his passing down work. Now, I do agree, if you want to temper expectations, you might not be looking at a 20-plus point week again like you did last week. He's probably not going to put up 24, 25 points this week in PPR leagues. But I think with his target share, and I think with his talent as well, I think he does have a safer floor, but maybe not as much upside if he does not get into the end zone like he did last week. Plus the groin issue, I know it's kind of been a continuing thing all off season for him. So just keep an eye on the groin issue, because as we all know, groins don't really get better during the season. You just kind of manage them. If anything, they're very easy to make worse. So we just have to watch that groin, and hopefully he's not a pass because of an injury. Hopefully he's not a pass at all, for my sake. But yeah, I can definitely get on board with both of you guys where you're coming from on that. And so now I believe you also have a sleeper running back option for us as well.
Yeah, I think if you have this guy possibly on your bench and you have Swift as a starter, which is a possibility, I like Melvin Gordon. Like I do. I think, it's definitely a committee, but we go back to the Detroit game. Like if they get down, Jamal Williams is going to get in that game, and especially on passing downs, he still eats into the target share. Both those guys actually had great games in week 1, where I think Melvin Gordon is going to be the primary back for Denver, where they play Jacksonville, and weather conditions. You're talking about rain in the forecast for this game as well. Melvin Gordon looked explosive. Of course, a lot of his fantasy points did come off of one big play, but he is still capable of doing that. And right now, Jacksonville is going to be a team where you can stream just about any position against.
Yeah, I mean, him and Javonte were 50-50 last week, but that might be, that's probably all you'll need against Jacksonville to have a good fantasy day. So
yeah, and especially if they get up very early, which with Jacksonville, as we saw with the Texans, your first place Houston Texans, they can get up very quickly with the way that Teddy Bridgewater played last week. Again, and then they can just run the clock basically the entire game. I can see him definitely having 15 to 20 touches in this ball game. And
he showed last week all he needs is one touch.
Yeah, exactly, too. So, I could see him having a good workload to go along with the explosive play and just his ability to grind out on an offense and a defense. It's funny, too, like, you mentioned with Swift as well, because the Swift Jamal Williams, as you kind of tied in with Melvin Gordon, they have Anthony Lynn as well, who was there with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. And that's where that backfield kind of reminds me a lot as well, is where you have Jamal Williams in more of the Melvin Gordon role. You have Swift in more of the Austin Eckler role. And so it's just kind of an interesting tie-in to go from, one of those guys to the other one. Whenever, they've kind of had very similar paths, you can almost kind of say. So, yeah, I also agree. I think Melvin Gordon's going to be a fantastic play this weekend. And if he's on your bench, if you're deciding between him, Mike Davis against Tampa Bay, like maybe you drafted Mike Davis in the 4th or 5th round, you got Melvin Gordon in the 7th, I would definitely rather stick Melvin Gordon in over those guys. So, yeah, definitely go with
Mike Davis if you have Mike Davis, you need to bench him this week.
I actually did. I had
to do the same thing.
I benched him for Jarvis Landry with the Odell Beckham news out with them playing Houston. I
benched him for Tony Pollard.
I don't think that's a bad option.
I would say, I could see it.
Yeah,
that's
Mike Davis. Mike Davis got the workload last week. He had 6+ targets in the passing game and 15 carries. He had over 20 touches.
Right. He's going to get the touches.
Yeah, he's going to get the touches.
Saw what Tampa did to Zeke last week. And this is going on the 3rd year in a row now, assuming they do it again this year, that they've been easily the best run defense in football. This is going to be 3 years straight where, this is not a small sample size. Like, if you've got unless it's Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara,
that's about
Derrick Henry. Like the guys you put like huge draft capital in, you can't really set them regardless of who they play. But outside of those, like 1st round and maybe a couple 2nd round running backs, if your running backs playing Tampa, just don't play them.
Yeah. Zeke touched the ball 20 times in that game.
Yeah,
in that game, and he still could not get anything going whatsoever.
And then nobody's rolling out thinking Mike Davis is Ezekiel Elliott. So
right, exactly.
So yeah, that's just kind of where we stand on that.
So there you go. There's an extra pass candidate for you for this week too.
Yeah, exactly. Mike Davis. Don't play Mike Davis. So now that takes care of our running backs. We will go into now the wide receivers with Andrew, who is taking over that. So Andrew, who do we have smashing at wide receiver this week?
So I'm going to take a play off of our pass from last week and make him a smash this week, just to let everybody know that, last week was rough. But if you listen to this show last week, that was expected for it to be rough. And now I'm telling you it is okay. Put him back in your lineup with confidence. He had 11 targets last week. I expect more of the same this week, except instead of having to deal with Jalen Ramsey all week, he gets to play the Cincinnati Bengals. The over-under isn't extremely high, but the Bengals pass defense showed last week against Minnesota that, they're not the greatest, which granted the task was not easy having to deal with Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, but it's not easy dealing with Allen Robinson either. The guy's an incredibly talented player, and we don't need to forget that. The targets are going to be there. The talent's there. The matchup's good. Put him back in your lineup. That's it's as simple as that for me. Just essentially, if you drafted him, you're probably playing him anyway, but you might be a little bit nervous. So it's just me telling you, don't be.
Yeah, underrated storyline. Andy Dalton returns to face the Bengals. As we all know, the revenge game narrative is in effect in this game. So
sure.
I think that definitely also helps the Allen Robinson tell, because they're going to want to get Andy Dalton multiple touchdowns against the Bengals, because believe it or not, the revenge game narrative is actually a thing in the locker room. Whenever these guys are playing these former teams that gave up on them, the locker room and the coaching staff has a little bit extra motivation to show.
You saw it with Darnold last week against the Jets.
Yeah, exactly.
Just last week.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a valid narrative.
I think it's also the Andy Dalton Express is about to park pretty soon. We know Fields is definitely he's going to be the starter eventually. So I think Dalton's still good enough to have a game where he goes off. Not necessarily goes crazy, puts up like Tom Brady numbers or anything like that. But could be a spot. Like you said, he is playing his former team. Allen Robinson is due for a monster game. There's actually Robinson and Montgomery both look really good in this game.
Yeah. And I don't think 2 passing touchdowns is out of the question for Dalton. And I would expect Robinson to get at least one of those, if not both of them.
Yeah,
agreed
for sure. So now we will get into the wide receiver wide receiver pass of the week. Who are we passing on at this position?
So for me, it's going to be Corey Davis. And one reason I think this is important because this guy was drafted to where you probably can afford to pass on him for the week based on where he was drafted in redraft leagues. I know he had a big week 1. He was clearly Zach Wilson's favorite target, but he is not playing against the Carolina Panthers this week. He's playing against Bill Belichick, who is notorious for taking away the opposing team's favorite option. And without even watching film, Bill probably already knew that Corey Davis was that guy. So I would expect him to get plenty of attention from their number 1 corner, J.C. Jackson, and probably some safety help as well. So factoring in the matchup, and Bill has a long history of just making rookie quarterbacks look miserable whenever he gets to face up against them for the first time. So I think Zach Wilson is really going to struggle here in this game in general. And then you factor in that I believe Jamison Crowder is set to return for week 2. He should be a nice little safety net out of the slot for Zach Wilson. And then you still got Elijah Moore, he looked awful in week 1, but he's got 1 week under his belt, and I do think Corey Davis gets most of the attention. So whenever I say pass, what I'm saying is I think he was slotted in as a wide receiver 2 or a flex for a lot of people last week, and I'm saying I don't expect him to finish within the top 24 receivers this week. I think he is a wide receiver 3 at best this week. So if you have to flex him just out of pure volume, you can. I still wouldn't feel great about it, but if you have better options and you can bench him, I would do so because I think he's outside of the top 24.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, and everything you said is what I would say. I definitely can see a lot of J.C. Jackson and safety help, and they're going to want to make a rookie quarterback with a rookie wide receiver beat them. And we all know the success Bill has against rookies, so it'll. Really, we know the success Bill has against everybody. But especially rookies. So I think the Jets are in for a tough matchup this week. And I think Corey Davis specifically is going to be game plan number 1 on that offense for them to take away.
Jared, I know you're a big Corey Davis guy, man. So do you disagree with any of this? Are you on board? How do you feel?
So I disagree, but I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I think Belichick is going to try to take their number 1 out. But you're talking about a Jets team that can't run the football. They're going to most likely trail in this game, and Corey Davis is their best option. I think he still finds a way. I'm not saying he's going to smash by any means, but I would be cautious on benching Corey Davis for just anybody. If you have some good options with great matchups on your bench, by all means, but I'm not giving up on Corey Davis. I do think he is the alpha of that offense, and I think they are going to sling the rock quite a bit.
Yeah. It's definitely. I'm actually. This is going to be kind of a transition because I'm currently thinking about benching him for the guy that I'm about to bring up as my wide receiver sleeper for the week. I have Corey Davis in a league as my wide receiver 2 currently, and then I have 2 other options: Christian Kirk, who is currently in a flex, and then I picked up off waivers this week none other than KJ Hamler for the Denver Broncos, and with them going up against Jacksonville. I love the matchup, obviously, first and foremost. And then the fact, whenever you factor in that Jerry Jeudy, who was a target hog for week 1 while he was in the game. I mean, he was on pace for easily double-digit targets. I don't know exactly what the pace ended up coming out to be, but before he went down, which was so unfortunate because he looked so good, like he was about to explode. And so factoring that in, Hamler did have 4 targets in the game, caught 3 of them, should have been 4 if he didn't drop the easy touchdown. And I believe in the talent. I think KJ Hamler is a very gifted player, and I don't expect him to just continue to drop easy touchdowns, but I do expect him to continue to blow by people and get wide open. And Teddy is accurate enough to hit him. Now, if it's too deep of a pass, it's kind of iffy with Teddy, but I like the possible uptick in targets. I love the matchup, and he's a guy that, pretty much went undrafted across the board. You probably grabbed him off waivers. There might even be a chance he's still sitting on your waiver wire. So if you're looking for a desperation flex play, or my favorite scenario for KJ Hamler is if you are a heavy underdog in your matchup, like you are projected to lose by quite a bit, and you need some upside in your lineup, go grab KJ Hamler and throw him in your lineup. I mean, he could bust and, give you 2 catches for 20 yards and you're hurting, or he could damn near win you your week by himself. He has that kind of burst and speed and big playability and talent. So, he's somewhere like, if you look at expert consensus rankings, he's down in the 60s this week. But I do think that he has the chance to really explode with the possible uptick in targets. So that's my sleeper, my deep dive for the week.
Yeah, I also, I mean, anytime you can pick a guy that, only needs one play to take it to the house. I mean, that's the definition of a sleeper play. So I'm all for KJ Hamler. I do worry about Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick looked fantastic last week, and
As he always does. He's so underrated, man.
yeah, so I can definitely see him getting most of Judy's workload, if not all of it. But yeah, I agree. If this guy's sitting on your bench, personally, I would still rather kind of take a shot on Corey Davis over Hamler. But I do 100% agree. If you are projected to lose your matchup by 20, 30 points this week, if you had, Antonio Gibson or Logan Thomas or one of these guys that didn't perform last night, Saquon Barkley, those type of players. There's the guy that I'm playing against this week in our 20-team league actually had Evan Ingram starting last night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 0 catches. He got a big 0. So I mean, if you're one of those players and you're looking at a rough week and you need a guy that, can go off at any given time, then I think this is a fantastic option.
All right, man. Well,
I agree.
Jared, anything to add?
No, I think Hamler is a good option. I think with Judy's injury, and I don't think Cortland Sutton's right. Like something's he's still banged up. And Teddy Bridgewater, one good thing too, if you are going around with KJ Hamler over Corey Davis, Bridgewater threw the ball 36 times last week in a win.
Oh,
so
I didn't even realize that. That's a good stat.
Yeah, right. So that's a good sign. And I think last year, Drew Lock definitely his ADOT was it was the best in the league actually, but his percentage of completing it was terrible. Teddy Bridgewater may not have the deep ball that Drew Lock has, but he is a hell of a lot more accurate. and
his deep ball looked really good.
Teddy looked really good week 1.
Really
in general, he just looked good. Yeah.
And it just goes to show you.
If Tyrod Taylor went out there and diced up Jacksonville, then I think Teddy Bridgewater can definitely.
Yeah. And Tyrod's another good quarterback. I really like Tyrod, but with that Houston team, I definitely didn't see that coming. But yeah, Teddy looks fantastic. And if Teddy Bridgewater looks this good, just imagine what Aaron Rodgers is going to look like next year in that offense.
Yeah, and so the situation you talked about, Landon, I had Saquon in this game in my lineup in this league. I ended up making the choice to leave him in my lineup, and I mean he didn't kill me. He had I think 9+ points in the league that I'm in.
Is it a full PPR?
I can't remember, but yeah, I think he had just over 9 points in the league or something like that. So he didn't kill me, but I was already projected as the underdog, and then he fell short of his projection based on sleepers. So now I'm even a little bit more of an underdog. So I am looking for some upside. So I'm putting I'm not just like throwing this shit out here. I'm putting my name behind it and doing it myself too. So, I'm not
All
just,
about.
I'm not throwing something on a wall and just hoping it sticks. I'm doing it too. So if anybody does, make this call with me and they roll with it, you're not alone.
Right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And if he pops off, then hey, I gotta give you your flowers while you're here.
Right.
One big play.
Yep. That's all it
That's it.
takes. So now we will get into the tight ends. Jared got a little tired of tight ends, all his issues last week.
It's not easy work smashing tight ends. All right.
Yeah.
I had a
Because there's
really bad week 1 on tight end.
Jared Cook actually was a really
sleeper.
You did great on the sleeper section. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we will get into tight ends, but I have a good feeling that we're going to rectify the misstep last week at tight end, and we're going to make it a little bit better for you this week. So my smash at tight end, unfortunately.
What do you mean? Fortunately, this is a beautiful pick.
Yeah. So I'm going to take Tyler Higbee this week. Do have some awesome stats for you as well to go along with the yeah.
Go ahead. I'm just listening.
All right, okay. So last week, Tyler Higbee, 52 out of 52 snaps. He played 100% of the snaps last week. Ran 26 routes on all 27 of Stafford's dropbacks. So he was very clearly the number one passing option at tight end. 10 of those snaps, he was actually split out wide, with 8 of those snaps playing in the slot. So they're using him as a primary pass catcher in the offense. 6 targets for a 23% target share of the entire offense at the tight end position, and posted 5 catches for 68 yards on those targets. And I think he actually played in a tougher matchup last week than he's going to this week, because if you have not seen the Colt injury report, 9 starters are either out or questionable in that game, including Darius Leonard, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, both starting safeties, both quarterback 1. So, I mean, you're looking at a ravaged defense who didn't play that well when they were healthier last week. We saw what Gerald Everett did as well there in the red zone. Gerald Everett got into the end zone as well, as did multiple Seattle guys. So, yeah, I think they're going to pick up at an even worse Colts defense than it was last week. They're going to absolutely smash. And Tyler Higbee, I expect to be the smash tight end this week. I think he's a lock for a top 3 tight end finish on the week. So you can go ahead and put that stupid ass flag down, Andrew. We'll get to the tight end bust on the week.
Might be the smartest pick anybody's ever made on this show. Couldn't agree more.
Well,
I'll make a comment too on this. So for DFS purposes, like I know we'll get into that in just a little bit. Higbee, like Cooper Kupp is going to be super chalky this week. Like a lot of people are going to play Cooper Kupp.
So when you say, I was going to say, when you say chalky,
he's going to be played a lot.
Yeah, that just means high ownership.
Yeah. Extremely high ownership on both sides, on FanDuel and Draft Kings. A good pivot from that is Tyler Higbee. Mm-hmm. Like if you believe that, maybe Higbee catches a touchdown instead of Cooper Kupp, maybe Higbee gets more yards, like maybe he gets more catches. All these things are possible, and Higbee's in a complete smash spot. As Cooper Kupp is obviously too, as well as Robert Woods, but I like Higbee a lot this week, like a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a lock for a tight end top 3 finish on the week. Now we will get that completely out of the way. It just broke my heart. Although I do, like the Rams. So I'm not really upset if they win. I expect them to win. Same way I expected Seattle to win last week. I got both those picks right. So once again, I think the Colts are starting 0-2, but luckily we get Tennessee next week, and who I also expect to be 0-2. And we will right the ship next week after Houston. Basically every AFC South team is just going to get obliterated this week. So let's get into their tight end bust of the week. It is none other than Mark Andrews. I should have pulled up the Price is Right theme horn like I did last week as well. But yeah, unfortunately for Mark Andrews, it's just going to get even rough sledding. I know he actually did not play bad. He actually had some pretty decent target share last week. But the big problem is now on top of the offensive line for Lamar Jackson looking in shambles, now they're expecting Stanley to be out as well. And that's not good at all. So Tyrann Mathieu back for the Chiefs, who's going to be the primary guy that's going to cover Mark Andrews. And we all know what a great defender, probably one of the, if not the top safety in the league. Tyrann Mathieu is. So he's already got a tough matchup. Now you're getting a quarterback in Lamar who has trouble throwing to begin with a shaky offensive line. Tackles are going to be missing and they're already extremely run heavy. And we know what happens whenever Baltimore has to play catch up. The offense does not look good whenever they get behind early, and against Kansas City, missing those cornerbacks. I expect Kansas City to jump out to a pretty wide lead, and they're going to be trailing all day. And whenever you have to make Lamar Jackson a drop back passer without the threat of play action, basically, it's never a pretty sight. And unfortunately, I think that combined with the Tyrann Mathieu matchup at this week at Kansas City, I think if you have another option in there at tight end, I think you should probably plug him in, because I think it's going to be a rough week for Mark Andrews. And to pivot, I think this guy could be a very good option for you. He's another guy that could be on your bench. And if you have Mark Andrews, you could slot him into your lineup instead and probably have a lot better of a week. And that is none other than Gerald Everett, the tight end, as we just talked about, for the Seattle Seahawks, who I once again expect to have a very good game. Gerald Everett looked fantastic last week against the Colts. And we all know the Colts have a much better defense than Tennessee does. Even as rough as they looked last week, they still didn't look as bad as the Titans. So yeah, Gerald Everett, just to give you some really cool stats on Gerald Everett. Obviously, the size, the speed at the tight end position, but Seattle actually finally seems to have a offensive coordinator that wants to throw the ball as well as use play action, and let Russ do his thing. So it was a screen that, he was very involved in the screen game, Gerald Everett was last week. Let me see here. I had a stat. So during the very first drive of the game, Gerald Everett played all 8 snaps and ran a route on all 8 snaps. Will Dissly did end up having more overall snaps by 1, so they do kind of split, but the target share for Gerald Everett was much larger, especially in the red zone. And I think Seattle's going to have a lot of plays in the red zone that they can use him in. And so I expect Gerald Everett, which whenever you're talking about tight end sleepers and smashes, basically you're just talking about touchdown dependency outside of Travis Kelce, Darren Waller. You're not talking about these guys. If you get 5 catches as a tight end, that's a good week.
Great week.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think this is one of those where he could have, 3 to 5, 6 catches, but I think he scores a touchdown again this week like he did last week. And I think you're looking, anytime you score a touchdown, you're almost guaranteed to be a top 10 tight end on the week. So I think Gerald Everett does get into the end zone. I think Mark Andrews does not. So that would be a swap I would be willing to make, as well, just combined with the athleticism and the hands and the size and just the way that Seattle's offense ran last week. It looks like a lot more promising passing volume offense than it does the previous years, where it was literally, run, pass. They utilize play action very frequently, which is a good sign for your tight end as well, if there's play action involved in your passing offense. So Gerald Everett, sleeper of the week, and that will take care of running back, wide receiver, tight end. One place we did hit very well on last week was our quarterback pass, where we had Justin Herbert. We're doing
Real
a little
quick before you move on from tight end, though, I do want to mention the last 2 times Mark Andrews has played Kansas City, he's averaged 3 catches for 26 yards. So just to kind of go off of your pick, I do think that makes a lot of sense. And then for Gerald Everett, I know you guys both watched the game, obviously with you being Colts fans, but watching the Seahawks, but was Shane Waldron the new offensive coordinator for the Seahawks that came over from the Rams, under the Sean McVay tree. It was so obvious that it was somebody coming from the Sean McVay tree with all the pre-snap motion and everything that was going on that had never been present in a Seahawks offense before. All the guys running around before the snap has even happened. It was a lot of fun. It was scary to watch as a Rams fan. I don't like to see the Seahawks doing stuff like that. I really enjoyed the offense of the past, but
run pass.
To your point, I think that Shane Waldron has really already done a great job modernizing that offense, and I think Gerald Everett is going to continue to reap the benefits of that. So yeah, I'm on board with both of your picks. It sucks as I have Mark Andrews in the league, but yeah, I'm on board with both of your picks. I think that they make a lot of sense. I
follow up just a little bit too. I don't think Baltimore's dead in the water. This week it's not a good matchup. They never can match up with Kansas City correctly. They just can't do it.
Yeah, it's a team that's not built to play from behind.
No, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Lane, your sleeper, I'm in on Gerald Everett as well. Like the only concerning thing on Everett, and it's a volatile position at tight end, is he did catch a touchdown last week. He only had 2 targets. And with a tight end though, at the end of the day, all you need is a touchdown or one play for 50 yards and you're good for a week unless you have one of the elites. And I think this guy could easily have 2 touchdown game upside.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, they did split targets, him and Will Dissly, and that's a little iffy, but I think Gerald Everett ran more routes in the red zone.
He's definitely more of the pass catching threat of the two.
Yeah. And so I think in the red zone is where they tend to want to use Gerald Everett a little more. And you kind of saw that pay off. Even though he was only, with the 2 catches, one of them was for a touchdown. And at that point, like you said, you're pretty much made as a tight end if you get into the end zone for the week. So yeah, like I said,
but anyway, you were about to brag on our smart decision last week before I really interrupted you. So,
no. Yeah,
spike that football for us, please.
So, yeah, we did hit on quite a few of our smasher passes last week. And one that we did hit on was our pass where we had Justin Herbert basically not finishing as a top 12 quarterback. And guess what? He did not finish as a top 12 quarterback. So to rectify that for all you Chargers fans,
I don't even think he finished as a top 24 quarterback. I think he was quarterback 25 on the week. So, and in terms of like just consensus rankings, he was in the top 12. So, football won't spike itself.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and pull that up here and just spike that. So yeah, just to rectify the bad taste in all the Chargers fans' mouths, our smash of the week. Look at that glorious hair with the background.
Best picture ever.
Yeah, fantastic photo. Is Justin Herbert. We all 3 kind of consensusly decided to do quarterback. So you get all 3 people's opinion on this one as well. There's, some research that went into this. We all think Justin Herbert is going to be, even though for fantasy, he did not necessarily do well last week, he still looked
great.
Yeah. Fantastic against a tough Washington defense. Well, I should say tough. Daniel Jones.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Daniel Jones looked really good last night. But we definitely expect the Dallas Chargers game to be a shootout. You saw what Tom Brady did, and Tom Brady is not near as mobile as Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert made some absolutely ridiculous throws in that game. And it seems that that offense has the potential to really click now. Especially they're getting Mike Williams more involved. Keenan Allen, you already know. But instead of sending Mike Williams on 9 routes the entire game, they're actually getting him the ball in space. So
he looked good breaking off those routes too.
Exactly. Yeah, his route tree looks fantastic. So yeah, this is a perfect buy low on Mike Williams. If you can, go ahead and try to get him in your roster. I know I drafted him where I could in quite a few places, so I already have him. But this might be the last week you're able to utilize a buy low on Mike Williams with 11 targets last week.
Yeah, and even despite Herbert's average week last week, Mike Williams had a pretty good fantasy day, so it might be kind of tough to trade for him right now, but it could still be worth it, even knowing that. Like with, I don't know, I'm a
I
Mike
have too.
Williams.
I love,
Yeah,
yeah, I love
I
Mike
can't quit
Williams.
Mike Williams.
I
So
know.
that
And
week one was all I needed.
and
He's a Hall of Famer.
yeah, exactly. And if everything goes like it did in week one, it's finally going to happen. So yeah, let's talk about the guy throwing him the ball though, Justin Herbert. So Justin Herbert versus the Dallas defense. Like I said, we saw what Tom Brady did to Dallas. We already know Dallas has a high-powered offense as well. Playing against the Chargers defense, who also looked pretty good in that matchup with Washington as well. But both these teams are going to throw the ball a ton. We know Dallas, they threw the ball, 60 times, 58 times, I believe it was last week.
Yeah, they eased back in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you could definitely tell that he had been resting all preseason.
I think he's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think he's fine. So yeah, they're gonna. I mean, and Dallas is going to every bit of do that against the Chargers. Unfortunately, look, and it's nothing with Zeke as well. This is just the way Mike McCarthy is. This was my biggest worry about Zeke when Mike McCarthy was hired, is not only would it be a running back timeshare with Tony Pollard, because if you played fantasy over the last 5 years, we all know the free Aaron Jones movement that was going on in Green Bay for years until Mike McCarthy was fired. Well, now it's going to be free Zeke. And it's nothing to even do with Zeke's ability. He looks really good, but Mike McCarthy offenses, they throw the ball a ton. And
I think the snap share thing was a little overblown based on what Pollard did only early in the game, though. I mean, Zeke ended up with almost an 85% snap share, but he just,
but I mean,
the game got away from the team.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, like I said, there's history with Mike McCarthy throwing the ball more. Like, you're not going to get the 30 carry Zeke games that you did his first 3 seasons.
No, yeah, you're going to need very positive game script for that.
Yeah, exactly. And with that Cowboys defense still looking like it did, especially now DeMarcus Lawrence is on an IR, out, one of their best, if not their best defensive player. I don't think you're going to have very many positive game scripts. I think they're going to have to throw the ball.
Future.
They're going to have to throw the ball to stay in games. But conversely, that means Justin Herbert's going to have to throw the ball to keep up. And the elite weapons, Austin Eckler looked awesome. Jared Cook, who Jared called last week. I think it's just the Jared connection. He just knows. But Jared called the Jared Cook game, and Jared Cook looked fantastic as well. Mike Williams looked fantastic. Keenan Allen looked fantastic. They have the offensive line looked incredible for the Chargers last week. Now I did know Brian Bulaga, the right tackle, very frequently hurt. They did pace him on 3-week IR this week. So they are going to be without their starting right tackle, but conversely, so is Dallas. So with the Lyle Collins suspension. So yeah, Rashawn Slater just looks like a franchise tackle. He looked amazing. Probably the best offensive line tape out of any rookie. I know Penei Sewell also looked great. They finally did the smart thing and moved him over to left tackle, but Rashawn Slater looked even better. Looks like a franchise guy at that left tackle spot. Corey Linsley looked good. The guards looked good. Gave Justin Herbert time against that. Say what you want about Washington's defense, the way it looked last night, and the way the Chargers played, but that front seven is no joke, and they held up very well. Dallas does not have near the talent that Washington has on the defensive line. Like I said, especially with DeMarcus Lawrence out. So Justin Herbert is in a very good game script to have protection, to throw the ball a lot, to keep up with Dallas's offense. And
I think Randy Gregory's even in danger of missing this game too.
Yeah, and so, I mean, he has a very, he does not lack for pass catching weapons.
No, I love this pick, man. We'll talk whenever we get into the FanDuel stuff, the FanDuel matchup. Whenever we go head to head, we'll be talking about him a little bit more here shortly.
Yeah. So that is going to be our smash of the week. So if you have Justin Herbert, you no longer have to cry about him being on the bench like you did last week if you listen to us, because you're able to start him with the utmost confidence this week. So now getting into our quarterback bust of the week. Pains me to do this. You already know the GOAT, Tom Brady.
He's throwing 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, which means
I'm not attaching my name to
yeah,
this.
yeah,
I'm not.
exactly.
I'm not.
This one's
No.
laying into me.
Yeah, this was us too.
Y'all talking about this.
But it's not because we doubt Tom Brady. It actually has nothing to do with Tom Brady. If anything, it's because Tom Brady is going to be too good and that offense is going to be too efficient against the Atlanta Falcons. So, like I said, this is not a negative Tom Brady thing. I just think it's more of a game script thing. There's supposed to be bad weather down in Tampa. That could also play a factor. But on top of that, they're playing the Atlanta Falcons. We all know what the Falcons looked like last week. It's complete dog shit. This could be a very interesting game where Tom Brady, has 1 or 2 touchdowns in the first half. And, I believe on most fantasy sites, Tom Brady's rated in the top 5. That's not saying that we don't think he could be a top 12 option. I think if anything, I do think he finishes outside of the top 12 on the week, but he could still be a top 12 option. Where I think it's a bust is because I think they get up very, very early on the Atlanta Falcons. It takes away from a positive game script, and they run the ball a lot with those 3 running backs. Bruce Arians came out this week, said all 3 running backs are starters, which is the worst possible thing you want to hear as a fantasy player. It's terrible. I hate coaches that do that. But hey, this isn't 1990. So yeah, all 3 running backs are going to get their timeshare, and against a Falcons defense that looks terrible, I think they're going to move the ball really well on the ground after they get up. This could be a game, like I said, Tom Brady might have 1 touchdown in the first quarter. They might already be up 3 touchdowns at that point. Matt Ryan could throw a pick 6, a running back could get a touchdown. And then you're looking at a 21-0 lead in the first quarter. Tom Brady's only thrown 1 touchdown. And
you know what this is playing out to be, don't you?
What is that?
This is the Ronald Jones one big game of the year.
Yeah.
You want to do Landon? You want to do a Tom Brady top 12 quarterback water bet for the week?
I'll do it. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right, cool. Put it on the board.
I don't bet against Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson on that.
That's the thing, though, is I'm not betting against Brady to lose. I think they win the game very handily. This has nothing. 12, this has nothing to do with Tom Brady being bad. It has
right.
If anything,
I get the stance.
Yeah, if anything, it has to do with Tom Brady being too damn efficient.
Yeah, no, I completely get the stance. I think Brady's going to do enough to put him. I'll even give you top 10. Yeah, you already agreed to top 12, but I'll even give you top 10. You do Tom Brady top 10.
That's fine. We'll do that.
All right.
Because if I'm wrong, that hopefully that means Mike Evans has a big week, and I need a big Mike Evans week. So either way, like I get wet or I get a big Mike Evans week, hopefully. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine either way. I think it has more to do. Like I said, this pick has more to do with the Atlanta Falcons than it does to do with Tom Brady.
Sure.
So yeah, I just think it's a negative game script.
There are a lot of quarterbacks that have some really good matchups this week too. So
yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah. So that's just where I'm going. But like I said, so if you're a Tom Brady fan, if you're a Tampa fan, if you're like Andrew, he's like, I'm not attaching my name to this. Well, you kind of are. You're a co-host on the show. So yeah, it has nothing to do.
That's the whole reason I made it a point to make a water bet, to make sure that it was clear that I was on the opposite side of this one.
Yeah. Well, hey, you gotta risk it for the biscuit sometimes.
That's right.
We could be like every other fantasy show, and Patrick Mahomes is our quarterback 1 of the week.
I tried to do that.
Yeah, no, Jared was a big fan of Alvin Kamara as his smash of the week.
But if you do have Tom Brady in your lineup and you share Landon's concerns and you're nervous, who's the quarterback that they can put in Tom Brady's spot where they could possibly get a bigger week?
Well, let's check the photograph. It's actually a very deeper play. It's Ben Roethlisberger, and I'll let actually Jared kind of did a little bit more research on this one. This was kind of more his guy for the week that he was targeting. So I'll kind of let him discuss why, obviously the weapons, but why you kind of going with Roethlisberger this week?
Yeah, couple reasons. One, like I think this game is going to be closer than what people are giving it credit to be. I think Vegas is going to hang in there with Pittsburgh. I think it could shoot out, to be honest with you. And I think Roethlisberger, as bad as he looked week one, I think this is the week he bounces back because Lamar Jackson, who is not a great thrower of the football, he's not your typical quarterback. He put up decent numbers against the Raiders. And like, I think Roethlisberger, with the three guys he has as weapons and Najee Harris coming out of the backfield, they do have a legitimate running back one now. I think he can definitely get you there. I think Roethlisberger can easily throw 3 touchdowns in this game. I know that sounds crazy, but I believe in Roethlisberger this week.
I like the call too. I think the matchup's great. I think the passing volume is going to be there, and the potential to have multiple passing touchdowns with the weapons he has, the matchup he's going up against, and the Raiders surprised everybody last week. So don't be shocked if they perform better than everybody thought this week too. So I like it. I think it's a very good play, especially if you're in one of those teams that streams quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis. I think this is one of the best streaming options this week.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously the elite receiving options, Freiermuth even looked really good last week as well.
Yeah.
And so the only concern with me obviously is the offensive line just looked awful last week.
And Max Crosby does not.
Yeah, Max Crosby looked good, and Ngakoue as well looked really good. They were the 2 top-rated edge players on the week, were both Raiders defensive ends. So we will see how that kind of takes place against a bad Steelers offensive line. There's no sugarcoating it. They're not averaged. They are bad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Najee Harris too, they're very bad. So yeah, I that's be my only concern. But like you said, I think this could be a very interesting game. It could be a lot closer than what people think it is. The Steelers defense did look absolutely incredible last week. Joe Hayden, highest rated cornerback on the week. Obviously, we already know what the defensive line does. Just absolutely ridiculous. So we'll kind of see how this plays out. But the Raiders are a scrappy bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing.
They win games they have no business winning.
Yeah, and then they lose games they have no business losing.
Right.
So, yeah, they will stay in with Kansas. They'll beat Kansas City and lose to Jacksonville. That's just the Raiders. So yeah, but I also agree. I think this could be a Big Ben touchdown week as well, where he might have 3-4 touchdowns, and we'll just kind of see how it plays out. So now that we're doing into that, now we will get into our money making matchups here with our DFS guy, Jared Holly. A little bit of a rough week last week, not because of bad picks, more because of the bad injuries. So, you take the Ryan Fitzpatrick injury, you take the Raheem Mostert injury, take some of these other injuries out of the play. It still wasn't a bad week, but those injuries are just killer. And that's one thing we will not do on the show is predict injuries. We don't want any player to get hurt, and we're not going to tell you they're going to get hurt, even if they have a longer injury history. We don't wish for that. So that's not something that goes into our heads when we make these. It is unfortunate it happened because look, if you listen to us, you lost money. We lost money. It was no good. Yeah, exactly. It
You're
was
not alone.
Yeah, exactly. It was no good. We trust me, we probably lost more money than you did. But yeah, it was a rough week. But like I said, it's not because of the bad picks, just more or less of a bad beat with the injuries. So this week we will hope to rectify it. Hope all these guys stay healthy. So Jared, give us some matchups and some players you are targeting this week in DFS.
Yeah, so some of the great, we kind of went over it with our picks earlier, some of the great options this week on both sides. One is going to be it's going to be very popular with the public, is going to be Najee Harris. A lot of people are going to be on him this week because we had a 100% share of that backfield in week one. He played every down, which is a big deal. And they are playing the Raiders, who got absolutely torched on the ground in week 1 by a rookie running back and Lamar Jackson. So he's obviously very much alive, very much in play. Of course, with daily fantasy, you have to differentiate from the field. So if you want to look for somebody possibly to differentiate from that, we talked about Ben Roethlisberger having possibly a big game, throwing 3 touchdowns. Landon even said 4. It's not out of the realm. And the guy I'd want to go to in that situation that has the highest ceiling is Chase Claypool. I think Johnson's definitely the number 1 option on that team. But if you're looking for home runs in daily fantasy, and Claypool is your man, like I think Big Ben can air it out against the Raiders. I think that game is wide open. And that's a good pivot from Najee Harris if you're trying to just get off the ownership of that, to be a little bit different in the field and try to take down the tournament. So another guy that's going to be highly rostered on both sides for very good reason is Chris Carson, who was my smash play at running back. And all the same reasons. They have a high total in the game for one. They are favored and they are at home. Weather conditions are going to play into that as well. It looks like it's going to rain in Seattle, which could take away from the passing game a little bit. They are playing, they're playing Tennessee. I almost forgot who they were playing.
They are. And this is interesting too, because you said they're at home. This is the first home game in Seattle in over a year now. So and we already know how loud that stadium gets, how those fans are.
That place is about to go.
That place
crazy,
is going to be wild, especially Seattle in the rain. Those fans,
I love that shit.
Yeah, that is going to be a fantastic atmosphere to watch.
Yeah, and Carson's salary too is at a great spot on both sides as well. He's 6,700 on FanDuel with a great matchup. It's going to be hard to top that. I try to give people advice on how to differentiate. Someone I personally like, there's two people if you want to get off the Chris Carson wagon and try to be different from the field. And it's not the typical matchup or the ideal matchup, but I do like Jonathan Taylor this week. I think the Colts are going to be more competitive, and I'm not just saying it because I'm a homer. I think the game is going to be more competitive than what people think it is. Landon, shake your head all you want. Jonathan Taylor.
Look, I hope I'm wrong. I pray you are correct.
Hear me out a second. You're looking at currently right now, Chris Carson is projected at 20% ownership on FanDuel, where Jonathan Taylor is looking at like slightly under 10%. Do you think there is a realm where Jonathan Taylor can outperform Chris Carson? Because I do.
No.
You don't? You don't think that there's a realm where we're talking one game, where he can outperform Chris Carson?
I mean, any given running back can outperform, especially whenever you're as talented as Taylor is. I just think going up against the Rams defensive front, whenever they're possibly down 3 starting offensive linemen, and they're going to be, I mean, they did use him in the passing game last week as well. So that is a very positive sign for Jonathan Taylor, is the touches. Marlon Mack got 0 snaps. So all that Marlon Mack talk of the offseason was.
So my other
down. But that's my only worry, is just you're going up against an Aaron Donald led defensive front in a game they're probably going to be trailing in, where you're down 3 starting offensive linemen. And
look, if you want to beat the Rams anywhere, it is to run the ball. I mean, the running defense, especially the linebackers, there's a lot.
They do over pursue a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to be desired in terms of the linebacker position for the Rams defense. The secondary is loaded, the defensive line is loaded, but the run defense is not incredible. Even David Montgomery he hit over the century mark last week, and he is not as talented as Jonathan Taylor. And I would expect for the Colts to try to run the ball as much as possible, as long as they're able to stick into the game.
Yeah, because they'll need to protect Carson Wentz as much as they can in this game. I think the good thing about the Jonathan Taylor pick is the Colts do tend to use their running backs a lot on screens and draws. So whenever you have a defense that is primarily pass rushing, like the Rams, where they over pursue a lot, Aaron Donald gets up the field very fast. If you use a screen in that scenario. I think that's why they're a little more susceptible to the run game. And you kind of saw that with Chicago last week. So yeah, I do agree with Jared in that sense, with the touches and the way that they use their running backs. But I just worry. I worry about the offense, especially Quentin Nelson dealing with back issues.
Yeah, if Quinn
Starting,
Nelson
It's not a
misses the
good
game,
spot.
yeah,
It's
and
Quinn
he's
Nelson misses the game. That's
yeah,
a big
exactly,
deal.
and he's listed as questionable right now. And then you also have they've already ruled out Braden Smith at right tackle, and they I don't know if Eric Fisher is going to be back this week or not. He might. I think there's a good chance he actually is, but at the same time, I can see them holding him out one more week to have him 100% ready to go for the divisional matchup next week. So at that part, you're down Quentin Nelson and both starting tackles. It's in a Colts offensive line that looked terrible last week against Seattle, and nobody's saying Seattle is the Rams for sure. So that's really my only concern with it is just the health of the offensive line and the game script, because with both safeties being out, cornerback one being out, the way Matthew Stafford torched the Bears, I think they're going to be throwing a lot. I think they get up early, and hopefully Frank uses them in the passing game, kind of similar to how he did last week.
Yeah, I'll touch on this one more thing before we move on to the next thing. Jonathan Taylor Day had a negative game script in week 1. He still carried the ball 15 times, had 7 targets. Chicago had a negative game script in game 1. David Montgomery still touched the ball 17 times and only had 1 target, and it had almost 20 fantasy points. So I do feel like if there is a weakness with the Rams, it is in the running game. Like I feel like they're an elite defense. And Aaron Donald's that good, but if they're going to rush the quarterback and they're going to lock in on their receivers more than anything else. So I think Taylor can be sneaky, and like in tournaments, that's kind of what you're looking for, is something to be sneaky and be a little bit different from the field. But it's not a good matchup.
Yeah, I hope you're right. And look, if the Colts offensive line was healthy and we're out there rolling out, Braden Smith and Quentin Nelson and Eric Fisher and Ryan Kelly and all these guys,
I feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'd have no qualms about it. If anything, I think that would be an area where we could dominate the game, would be in the running game with Taylor. But yeah, that's just my only qualm is the injured offensive line and the negative game script with the cornerbacks and safeties being hurt and out of the game as well. So yeah, that's just where I think the direction it's going to be headed. So
we talked on our cover boy, Justin Herbert. Like, he is in a great position this week on both sides and affordable, and he's easy to stack with his wide receivers. And you can also bring back a player from the Dallas side to make that like a onslaught game, basically. One option with Herbert is, of course, set him up with his number 1, which is Keenan Allen. Or if you want to save some salary, you can go with Mike Williams, who had 11 targets last week, and we all agree looks fantastic after 1 week. And then Dallas, I mean, you got so many options. You got CeeDee Lamb, you got Amari Cooper. If you want to roll the dice with Zeke, I have no problem with that. I think he'll come in a little bit lower owned than CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper. I think everyone's going to focus more on the pass game in that game. If you want to double stack Herbert, a good way to be contrarian with that is maybe you do go Mike Williams and maybe you go Jared Cook as well. Or you can go Keenan Allen and Jared Cook, because Jared Cook, he had 8 targets last week. Did he have a touchdown? I don't think he had a touchdown.
He did not.
But he had a really good game, and Herbert was throwing to everybody except the guy that I am not overly confident in this week is Austin Eckler. I'm just not sold on Eckler yet. He is coming off an injury as well, and not a lot of people have talked about that because he did play week 1. He wore a questionable tag all week long right before kickoff. I'm not 100% on Eckler. If it was me, you can get Zeke for a little bit more. It's not a crazy move up, and I think he is definitely going to be the better option to Eckler. And right now, Eckler's ownership is creeping up, which is kind of surprising in a way too. That game right there is going to be very popular. So an option to get off that one, a guy that has a very high floor and or a safe floor and a very, very high ceiling is Jalen Hurts. I will have a lot of shares of Jalen Hurts this week on both sides. The rushing upside is so nice. Like he's basically a running back that could throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns easily.
Yeah, he looked fantastic throwing last week.
He did. It was against Atlanta. We do have to take that in consideration. That defense looked atrocious. But that 49ers defense didn't look elite.
Jared Goff lit him up.
He did. And I think with Hurts' ability he can cause a lot of problems. I was not big on Goddard or Hurts last week. Goddard caught a touchdown. The guy I would stack Hurts with is Devontae Smith. You can even go as far as not even stacking anyone with Jalen Hurts because he does have the rushing upside to bring down a tournament, and he is going to come in significantly much lower owned than Herbert or Dak this week because everyone is going to be on that game. And the game with the Cowboys and the Chargers has a 55-point total. San Francisco and the Eagles have a 50-point total. So it's not like a crazy difference in points. If you want to be a little bit different, maybe instead of going with Justin Herbert, maybe look at Jalen Hurts' way. Tight end, I think it's a lock, and it's the one thing we touched on. I think Tyler Higbee is a lock this week. His price point is perfect. Tight end's never going to draw crazy ownership. I don't think you need to be contrarian whatsoever on this. The only other pay up option that I would go, and it's not an ideal matchup, is Darren Waller at 7,000 on FanDuel. He's going to collect a lot of ownership, and he's playing Pittsburgh, where Higbee could easily be the man in that Rams and Colts game. A lot of people are going to play Cooper Kupp. He's someone you can get off of Cooper Kupp with if you don't fully trust that situation. Kupp's a great play, but Higbee is definitely the tight end I'd lock in.
Yeah. So now that you've touched on kind of every position on guys that you think are going to smash, let's go ahead. We will do one FanDuel lineup and one DraftKings lineup that Jared has set. I'm going to go ahead and get my phone ready because I'm ready to win some money this week. Finally, after a rough week 1, we got to make our money back, Big Holly. So how are we going to do that this week on FanDuel? I'm going to go ahead and get into the $5 million maker lineup.
All right. So we are going to go with quarterback Jalen Hurts.
All right. So Jalen Hurts, quarterback.
Running back, you hate this pick. We're going to go Jonathan Taylor.
Hey, Jonathan Taylor. At least I'll have a rooting interest. I hope he does well.
At the second running back position, David Montgomery.
David Montgomery, it's the Bengals. All right.
Devontae Smith at wide receiver.
Let's go Devontae Smith.
Chase Claypool at wide receiver.
Chase Claypool.
DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver.
That's a good one.
And Tyler Higbee at tight end.
All right. Flex spot.
Alvin Kamara, the lock at the flex spot.
Alvin Kamara. Have a good game. And then that leaves 3,300 for the defense.
You're going to laugh at this.
We're going with the Falcons defense on
No. Possibly worse.
The Jaguars.
We're going to go with the Tennessee Titans.
Oof. Hey, look, I need the Titans to win me some money this week. All right, so entering the millionaire maker with that lineup. Let's see what we do here.
You want a DraftKings one?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get a DraftKings one as well. I don't necessarily play DraftKings, especially yesterday when the Hard Knocks announcement was announced. They put up a little meme mocking the Colts with the banner. So yeah, DraftKings gets none of my money. You gonna talk shit about the Colts?
What?
No, I'm not gonna give you any money.
You'll have to send this to me, whatever you're talking about.
Oh yeah, you know how like the Colts hung the banner, the AFC finalist banner, like most every other team does. when they make the conference championship. Well, for some, they put what did they put the banner up on DraftKings and they said like 2021 Hard Knocks team or something like that on it with the banner. So it was extremely corny. It was not a funny joke. Everybody, yeah, exactly. It wasn't even creative. Everybody commented on it too. Like not even Colts fans. Like there was other fans that commented. They were just like, yeah, this is cringy. Like this is not you've reached way too hard. So I posted on there. I commented on it too. I said that's why FanDuel is better. So yeah, DraftKings ain't getting none of my money. But if you do play on DraftKings, hey, look, we're not going to leave you out in the cold here. So we do have a lineup for you as well.
Oh yeah. So like we mentioned in one of the earlier episodes, DraftKings, their salaries are a little bit tighter than FanDuel, so you can't really jam in everybody as easily what you can on FanDuel. FanDuel is a lot more flexible in salary. DraftKings is also full point PPR, where FanDuel is half point PPR. So you got to take that into consideration as well. And you also get bonuses based on if your wide receiver has 100 yards, you get an additional bonus in points. If your quarterback throws for 300 yards, it's additional bonus in points. It's a different scoring system. And the best thing to do is just read every entry you put in for it. It does have a scoring system on there. So make sure you read that before you set anything in stone. But I do have a DraftKings lineup, and we're going to go back to Jalen Hurts again. And then Alvin Kamara at running back, Jonathan Taylor at running back, Devontae Smith, Corey Davis, Jacoby Myers. Both of those guys are at wide receiver. Jared Cook at tight end, Robert Woods in the flex, and I just pick a random defense, and the salary I was left was the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, so we will see. It's going to be, especially now with Corey Davis, he was Andrew's pass of the week. We will see how that plays out. That's going to be an interesting one for sure. So those are your two free lineups of the week. Hopefully we win some money. And like I said, we are having on FanDuel a weekly competition, only $1 to enter. We each make a lineup. You get to play against us for the week and win some money, possibly. We're going to try to take your money too, so don't get it twisted. But but yeah, it's just a chance for everybody to get together and play some weekly fantasy. After that's one thing I do love about FanDuel and the daily fantasy is, I love drafting. I love picking players that I'm really high on. But after the season starts, that's over with. You just kind of roll with what you have, unless you can swing some trades throughout the season. With FanDuel, it's like I get the draft every week, and I can pick the guys that I like, and the guys that I want to target for that week, and just guys that I'm really high on and like to watch in general. It makes it a lot more fun of a viewing experience too, watching Red Zone, because you have a lot more options to root for, and you get to win some money on top of it. So
something I wanted to touch on last time too, and I didn't. For anybody that's new to the daily fantasy, like don't be intimidated by it. Like it seems like it can be a lot, but there's contests for everybody on these things. There's $1 competitions. There's nickel tournaments.
Yeah, there's 5 cents.
Like you can literally deposit $5 and stretch it out and play 5 or 6 different contests and like multiple different lineups. It's a lot of fun. If it definitely makes the games even better to watch, which NFL is so much fun to watch anyways. But if you have a small investment on it, it makes the game a lot better to watch. So don't be overly intimidated by any of the sites, and stay tuned to our podcast, and we'll definitely help you out the best we can on any of it.
Yeah. I love fantasy, and like I said, my favorite part of fantasy is the drafting aspect. So this gives me a chance to draft every single week, and not have to worry about missing out on a guy that I'm really excited about. So yeah, that's just basically our DFS part of the show. Like I said, we will have a competition. The link will be in the YouTube video for you to join. and as well posted on our Twitter, social media, and I'll probably go ahead and post it on Facebook as well, and in some of our fantasy groups. So if you play in any of our fantasy leagues, especially the redraft league, and it's only $1 to enter, so it's, we're not breaking the bank, it's just more for fun. And hey, you might get a free lunch out of it, at the end of the week. So yeah, just go ahead and join that when you can. And look, if it catches on and you guys might be interested in maybe upping the stakes a little bit, if you want to go with a little more money every week, then that can be something that we look at in the future. So but that will conclude our money making matchups for week 2. We're really excited. If it's, if week 2 is anything like the Monday night game, if it's anything like the Thursday night game we got last night, I mean, we're in for a treat for week 2 as well. There's a lot of really fun games on the slate this week, and it's just I love football. I'm glad it's back, and we'll definitely look forward. And we will, we'll be ready for our week 2 recap. Hopefully, a little bit richer in our pockets as well, coming to you, and hopefully, we make you some money as well. So that will conclude our show. Andrew's going to go ahead, do the closing. Take it away.
Yeah, as always, first and foremost, thank you for sticking with us and hanging out with us for this week 2 money making matchup preview. Hopefully we do make you some money this week. And, if we do, or if we don't, either way, be sure to, anywhere you can find a podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever the case may be, go over there, follow, subscribe, whatever that platform wants you to do. And then if you want the visuals, go with the audio, hop over to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel as well. Make sure to go over and subscribe to that. Whenever you do subscribe to that, click the little bell that pops up. We're about 2 shows a week now, so it's only going to be 2 times a week. A little notification is going to pop up on your phones. We're not blowing you up with notifications, but this way you'll at least know whenever the most up-to-date podcast has been uploaded, and you can stay up to speed on everything going on. And then while you're here, make sure that you like the video. If you've made it this far, surely to God, you at least somewhat liked what you heard. So like the video, and then hop in the comments and let us know what we missed. The guys that you like at their price point this week, who your smashes or passes are, for the week at certain positions. Let us know what we might have missed, or where you might disagree with some of our takes, so that we can, clap back in the comments on YouTube as well. So, thank you for all the support. We appreciate you, and we enjoy getting to go through this ride with you guys as we just really getting into the thick of things for the NFL season. Week 2 is basically our normal week 1, since we got an extra game, an extra week this week. So we're really just now getting to the thick of things. So stay tuned.
Yes, and thank you guys so much. I'm sure week 2 will be a very interesting podcast you want to tune into after our matchup. Andrew's actually going to be at the game, so I hope we make his first Lucas Oil experience as miserable as possible. I hope you have an awful time at the game.
Jonathan Taylor about to eat, boys.
But I have a feeling you're gonna, even if the Colts don't win, I mean, it's such a fantastic stadium. You're going to have a great time there. So just be safe, have a fun trip. And we will see you guys next week for week 2 money-making matchup reviews and just overall impressions, risers, fallers, all that good stuff. So have fun, stay safe, and enjoy watching some football.